Hello there.
My name is Inkadu, and I thought I'd do my first ever review on... Thank you, Ubisoft, for providing me with a copy of Star Wars Outlaws. There's been a lot of negativity surrounding this game online, and there are some valid criticisms when it comes to this game, but after putting in 50 hours into Outlaws myself, I can actually say that this game is kinda good. And before the woke DEI hate mob attacks me, just hear me out. If you're already mad about Outlaws before you actually play the game, then maybe this review is not for you, but this game will actually appeal to a very specific gamer. If you fall under the Venn diagram of open world Ubisoft games and Star Wars games, then you're just like me. You're gonna enjoy the hell out of this game. First and foremost, this game feels like core Star Wars. If you love Star Wars, then this game is up there as one of the best I've ever played. You actually feel like a scoundrel. You feel like Han Solo, running gambits, playing card games, and working your way through the criminal syndicates of the galaxy. The cameos and Easter eggs that you'll encounter along the way build into the set dressing of an authentic Star Wars experience. But more so, the game is simply beautiful to look at. You just want to walk around and take in the details and atmosphere of every planet and environment you go through. I spend way too much time in photo mode myself. Now, when it comes to the style of open world Ubisoft games, I can definitely understand the criticisms of not enjoying that type of gameplay. But if you're a seasoned veteran of the traditional Ubisoft checklist of things to do in open world games like me, then you'll be okay with exploring and you'll want to keep going in this game. The gameplay loop for me was engaging enough to keep me coming back. The game primarily revolves around ground combat and stealth mechanics, which for me were fun enough and serviceable. I can understand the criticisms of 4 stealth sections, but to me they weren't that difficult, and after failing a couple times you'll quickly understand the loop of getting around bases and enemies. Some of the more satisfying parts of this game definitely comes from the exploration and traversal of climbing structures, swinging from cliffside to cliffside, and going off the beaten path as you look for hidden treasures in the world. Riding your speeder across the worlds and just taking in every environment. However, I did find that not being able to freely shoot your blaster unless you filled up your adrenaline deadeye meter to be an extremely odd choice. Space battles after the first few times were okay, but after a while they just became lackluster and I just didn't enjoy it. If you would rather stick to the main quest or syndicate quest, I think there's still a lot of fun to be had. The Syndicate faction quests are pretty fun, and choosing which Syndicate faction you want to be a part of can be interesting at first. Unfortunately, it quickly became too basic as I just kept manipulating the system to keep all the syndicates in my favor, as you'll get rewards for being good with all of them, and having them against you, locking you out of controlled areas, became a bit annoying to me, and it didn't hold any value as why I would pick one faction over another, so I just decided to keep them all in my good graces. When it comes to the main quest of Outlaws, the story is contained within itself. It's not on a grandiose scale like the EA Jedi games, where you're a Jedi taking on Inquisitors and Darth Vader as Cal Kestis. In this story, you're an outlaw trying to find your way in the criminal underbelly of the galaxy, all in preparation for a grand heist at the finale of the game. The story being on a smaller scale is okay to me. It's still a charming story in some ways, but it can be a bit unremarkable in others. The main antagonist is pretty forgettable, and the crew you build is not that exciting. However, I can't help but fall in love with Kay and Nix. After spending as much time as you do with them, they quickly became one of my favorite duos in all of Star Wars. ND5, your robot partner who's on the cover of the game, is probably my biggest disappointment of this game. You have some moments throughout which builds Kay's relationship with him, but it wasn't as impactful as it could be. Outside of a few key missions, for whatever reason, I just did not feel as attached to him as the game wants us to be. Outside of the 3 main protagonists, the only character that generally steals the show for me is Rico, Kay's mom. The relationship they had intrigued me the most, and the scenes they had together left me wanting more interactions between the two. And I could only hope that the team can explore Rico's lore if they ever get a chance to make a sequel. After beating Outlaws, and despite the story being at most a solid B-tier Star Wars story, and despite the criticisms of an open world Ubisoft game, and the few non-game breaking bugs I did encounter, I think overall, Star Wars Outlaws is a 7.5 out of 10 good video game. Even if my heart wants to give it an 8 out of 10, because of the authentic immersion-filled experience I had, looking back, I know that this game still has a lot of things left for improvement. But at the end of the day, you should play this game for yourself, and you give it a review. F*** the haters.